Hey everybody, it's Brian Asbury, and I just wanted to welcome you to today's episode. If you could, like today's episode, hit that subscribe button, and let's continue to grow the developmentally speaking brand. Today, my guest is former WWE developmental talent, Mr. Brandon Groom. Brandon, how are you, sir?
Better than I deserve, and really good on top of that.
So I'm going to
How
ask
about
you.
you?
Oh, I
How
can't
about you?
complain. This weather is starting to warm up. It's getting hotter than hell out here. So
Dude, I'm telling you, I don't like the heat. How about you?
no,
You know what I mean?
I like it like spring and fall, but not like 90s and stuff. That ain't for me.
I hear you. I don't like being hot in the house. I like the AC on.
hmm
Don't be hot in the car. But sometimes other people do, so you gotta put up with it a little bit, huh?
Yeah, 68 year round inside the house.
My man.
So, what made you want to get into professional wrestling?
You know, you're gonna go back to about
Head south
10
toward
years
West
old. Oh
51st Street
man,
South.
Siri's trying to take over ringing a letter though. 10 years old, I think I was going through some stuff as a kid, whether I knew it or not. Changes everything, and mom and dad had separated and getting divorced, just different things going on. Sometimes getting picked on at school, although I had friends and was decently popular, I guess you can say. But at the same time, I think the realization of all the as you're growing up, good and evil,
hmm
and then I see that in pro wrestling, along with action and along with someone being able to take action against a bully or a bad guy or something like that, or how tricky and sneaky, sometimes the bad guys will be and what they're trying to do. So I think that, is kind of like part of life in general and ingrained in us anyway. And
hmm
so I think that drew me from just a human being to something that started to relate how life was, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. So, at what age did you decide that this was something you were going to pursue, and where did you start training at?
Man, I think Bill would answer the question. I think I watched from 10 years old to 11 years old, fourth grade to fifth grade, and then that was the time I saw WrestleMania 7, 92, I believe it was. So Hulk Hogan versus Sergeant Slaughter, Ultimate Warrior, and Macho Man Randy Savage, and all these others. I was just like, wow. And I think after that show, I saw Hogan win from Slaughter, and it was a USA versus Iraq. All kinds of cool emotion and just realism and everything in that story and time. Even though some regard it to not be a very good WrestleMania or whatever, I always think it's the best. But that's when I decided I was like, you know what, I'm gonna be a professional wrestler someday. And my mom and like, you're not gonna do that. That's one in a million. You got to go to college and do this and that. And my dad's like, man, I support you, but I don't think it's really, I don't know. It didn't seem like something someone from Bristow, Oklahoma would do or something like that. But you learn true mindsets and get away from things or just other people's opinions, which they may love you, but they don't always have the truth for you.
Yeah. So,
Man, good injury.
where did you start training at?
Um, Started training in Tulsa, Oklahoma, right here, and going across the river right now to Riverside. Yeah, right over there. You can see the Oral Roberts buildings, and right next to that was River Lane's bowling alley. What's it called now, Dan? It's still River Lane. No, it's a. It was bought through EM, whatever it is, anyway. Bowling place. Right. If you get the name, let me know. But anyway, it was River Lane's bowling alley, and they had a room in the back, and Rocco Valentino, uh, Rob Biggins was our trainer and the promoter. And thank God he had the promotion to be able to find an in. But
hmm
I would have found an in either way. I know that. But it was nice that something was right there in Tulsa. So River Lane's bowling alley, and that's where I started training. Was there another part of that question?
No, no. So, after you started training, did you stay in the Oklahoma area, and when did you start to get your name out there?
Um, but yes, I did stay in the Oklahoma area, and I was just like, I had the attitude where a lot of guys kind of, almost the same mindset of my parents. Oh well, I was like, I had the attitude of, no, I want to go to WWF. What it was at the time. I want to go to WWF. I want to do the best I can. I want to make it big time. And the other one's like, oh, well, now we're being more realistic and just kind of, well, that's, some guys, 1 in a million. It's like, well, yeah, stars align on, the 1000th day of the blue moon or something, I was like, no, we want to, and lo and behold, we ended up getting a tryout, if you will, with WWF. A guy from Bristol, Oklahoma, Wesley Crane, wrestler, his dad, Rick Viper, made that call and got me and Bull Schmidt, Rocco Valentino, and Big Daddy Moore down to WWF, and I believe it was Austin, and then supposed to be, San Antonio or so. Anyway, went down there, and that was my first time, I guess, going out of state. An awesome experience. And then, to fully answer your question, I stayed around in Oklahoma more, but me and Rocco Valentino, my trainer and the promoter, we didn't always get along, in the ring or outside the ring. And so it really boiled over into both, where, I kind of left that promotion. There was actually an altercation in the ring during the Royal Rumble or Battle Royal. Yeah, where it got physical and real as you can get. And I made a speech in the ring that, I'm leaving this place. I love you guys, but I'm going to go not only to this company, but out and about. And that's when I started going to Harley races and just starting to realize, okay, there's wrestling in Arkansas or Kansas. Why don't we go all these places? That's when you really start getting better, because not only the culture of how maybe one's trained or the style or whatever else in a certain area, but also just being able to learn to work with anybody really helps any wrestler, I would say.
Yep. So when you're out here, you're starting to travel a bit, get your name out there. How did you get on WWE's radar?
Well, first because of the guy reaching out, Rick Viper, Patrick McClendon from Bristol, Oklahoma. Rick Viper, radio personality, all that stuff, actor. He said, yeah, we say it's just a big long shot in the dark, but they come to town and sometimes they use their extra talent. So let me see about this guy Bull Schmidt getting on, and because he was 6'5" and like 27 years old, really ripped up and good shape, and he was someone that they thought, well, this is the guy that's the 1 in a million, he could make it. So I think though Rick Viper was the guy to say, oh, man. Hey, it wasn't their fault. It was. Come on, man. They had a red light. Anyway, they said, hey, you got a few others to break down. So that's what I learned too. They have extras and that kind of deal. So went down there and we're sitting like, I didn't really realize what we were doing, but I went down there and we're sitting like kind of like ringside, like almost in the crowd area a little bit during the middle of the day when all the wrestlers are around and you're seeing all these guys that you see on TV. It's like seeing a bunch of cartoon characters right in front of your face in real life. So I was 20 years old barely, and it was kind of trippy for me, but really cool. And Molly Holly went up and was talking to me for a long time, made me feel real comfortable. And then Tony Gurria was his name. I didn't know the guy at the time. He came over and was like, hey, how y'all doing? So I think we're going to have you work with Maury, or I think that was his name. Bo Dupp was the guy from ECW. He said, yeah, have you guys do a match and that'd be good. And I was like, oh, really? Okay, we're going to have a match? All right, cool. And I thought we could, but I just thought it was very, there again, the attitude that we went with from our leader, who was just reasonable and conservative, I guess you could say. Oh, yeah, well, we may get a match. I mean, there's like, felt like a 10% chance. It was like, no, we're having a match. And everybody got a match or got something to do anyway. And I had a pretty darn good match with him, and it was awesome. Like, I got 50% of the match at least. It was a really good, just instinctive moments. And I love doing that to people now. And a lot of people don't want to do that, and a lot of people are held back. And if you're going to be a wrestler, be willing to be thrown in the waters. I like to say, hey, go out there and do it. You'll get it. You'll learn it. You either will or won't. But, if you at least try, you most likely will. But there was a lot of moments. I remember one thing. one time in there, I got slammed on my head really hard, like an Alabama slam, and I had to get my wits about me. And then another time, did a leapfrog over him, and I was like, oh my God, what am I fixing to do? And all of a sudden, boom, super kick this dude. And I mean, it was really cool. It was the best, my very first, and probably the best match for that company that I ever had. And at the end, I just remember walking away from the ring and selling and, feeling everything that had just happened, but being able to lift my head and almost in appreciation to the people. And as I did that, I didn't say anything to them, but they just started cheering and cheering as I kept looking, and I just raised up a fist. They came up with it, in a cheer, and so I was like, you know what, I feel this. They threw me in the waters, and I feel what's going on. Let's go ahead and do it. So anyway, I came to the back, and Tony Gurria and was like, "That's a good match. It's a good match." And I was like, "Oh, they're probably just saying that." I learned later people in WWE don't just say that; they'll tell you real quick if it's crappy or whatever. But I was like, "Wow, that was a good honor." But the guys I went with, the guy that was really looking at, Bull Schmidt and Rocco, went to the ring with Mean Street Posse, and they did just some stuff, I guess, that was, indie, if you will. Didn't really think about, I think, the production side of it or whatever. But anyway, they were heels and all this kind of stuff, and they went out there and they was doing this to the crowd and all that kind of stuff, and some sexual things, I guess, that I maybe were more PG-14, and the WWE, Kevin Kelly, in fact, looked at them like R or X, Anyway, that's what, just to keep it kind of simple right there. So we didn't get to do the next day. I had that good match, all that stuff. Kevin Kelly was like, "Man, we really like you, and you had a great match, and I'm sorry it's kind of ruined for you tomorrow. It's going to cost you a payday and stuff." And I'm like, "I don't care about the pay. I want to wrestle." but we didn't get to go to the next day, and they didn't ever use, I don't think, either one of those again that did that. But me and Big Daddy Moore got to go back in April. We got to wrestle Ron Killings or R-Truth or K Quick at the time, and that was pretty cool. And just so I was on the radar from that, and that's the story. And then just kept having at least like 1 to sometimes, I don't know, 6, 10 matches a year. I mean, something like that. I really remember, and oh my God, I wish back then I would have been like, "Hey, this is valuable. Keep these tapes." I've got matches here and there, but I was just like, "Oh well, I'll just do way more than that or whatever else." But yeah, I wish I could have gone and kept all the stuff, kept pictures, kept autographs. But I got them up here. Here. That's most important.
So when they finally signed you, what was your first initial reaction to what WWE developmental was versus what everybody sees on TV?
I got to see everything you would want to see. Well, I wouldn't say 95 aspect, 2007, 2008. But here's something that, just make clear is the truth. I wasn't actually ever really signed. Okay. I did all these matches and all these kind of tryouts and everything. And like, people thought I was signed. Even Brian Christopher. Oh yeah, you guys, we'd see him all the time. And I'd work in Memphis too. But at 2007, Steve Keirn had been an agent for some of my matches there, WWE and all that. So I got a hold of him in Florida. I was living in Florida, and part of that was to get closer to WWE. And he was like, "Hey, yeah, no, you can train, and I'll get you signed." He goes, "Actually, it's my building that FCW was starting in or something like that." And he goes, "I could have you as, kind of like he was ownership with Vince and all that." He's like, "I can have you here. Won't you I'll just tell him you did something. Won't you just pay $1,000 for the year? I mean, or something like that." So I did, and I was really the only guy kind of in that situation, but I did everything with them, practiced and all the shows, that kind of stuff. It was pretty awesome. And then, it was like a week later, a week or two, and man, it was crazy because what a great time, what an opportunity that was at the worst time of life for me ever. Yeah, I had I had gotten a divorce, first divorce, anyway, with the brideless groom. But anyway, it wasn't funny. It was a bad deal, bad time, hard. And then I got this other woman that was a little older than me and wiser and I think had good intentions, but was a little crazy back then. But she's pretty cool, and I think she leveled up in a lot of ways. But anyway, man, I got with her, and it went downhill real quick. So first got with her and got there, and he's like, "Oh man, yeah, that's good." Or went to a WWE thing, and everything was good. And then had some matches there, and they're like, "Hey, yeah, this good," and all the people were watching and that kind of stuff. I got to practice with the Nasty Boys and Jim Neidhart and golly, he seems like someone else too. Yeah, those guys. Things are going good. Then Steve Keirn, like a week and a half later, he's like, "Hey, you wouldn't be mad if I got you signed already?" Because Ty Bailey, I think his name was down there, and I had a couple matches, but man, I'm telling you what, the night before, and I hate excuses. I've learned from stuff like this that it's not how good you are at your best, but how good are you at your worst.
Yeah.
Because you never know. Anybody can be good at their best. But man, the night before was the first night that this lady really tripped out and busted a wine bottle by my bedside, and I was up till god awful 5 in the morning or something. Came in kind of emotionally disturbed and also sleep deprived, and then I hate excuses too, but working this guy Hayden Vanson from England, and he was just kind of like resistant to stuff I was trying to do, and then the language barrier that was there too. Anyway, it wasn't the best matches, so they were like, okay, this is decent, but I wasn't the tallest guy in the world either, so I ain't gonna, maybe sign him later or something. So anyway, life just kept getting worse as far as personally, and then I think that affected my demeanor and attitude. That's another thing for any aspiring wrestlers. I've learned that it's not just how well you can bump or sell or whatever else in the ring. It's like, hey, do people want to be around you? Or you bring in positive energy. Remember talking to Charles Robinson, blonde hair referee, right? And backstage WWE a few years ago, and he was like, so man, what do you think? Trying to find these questions, trying to explore just whatever you can. It's like, what do you think everybody has in common back here or whatever? He's like, think about that. And he came back later and he was like, energy. And he's like, no, wait, actually, it's positive energy. So even Paige, as the dark look or something, brings some kind of positive energy backstage. And I think that's something that was really going downhill with me from the start of being at FCW for the 14 months, probably it's a little over a year. And, that really didn't help. But when I got there, it was like, hey, pretty close to, maybe getting you signed, even though I went through a real hard time, but I was still had some substance of me. But I think I got stripped down to the bottom of the barrel by my own choices and decisions, that I learned from. But Dr. Tom was a really big fan of mine. I mean, as far as like wanting to get me signed and that kind of deal, I appreciated that. William Regal always has been, but I've never actually been signed to year-long paying contract. But I've been blessed to do so much, with them on matches and TV times, and people have got to wrestle, conversations I've got to have. I don't know, and it's been awesome. So people, when people say, "Oh, Brandon, WWE superstar, you used to work for WWE or whatever," it's like I have worked for WWE over and over and over again, and I don't mind, just like right now, taking all this time to correct that and make it right and truthful, But sometimes, it's just like it's not even worth saying nothing. So, all right, yeah, man, let's take a picture, But I hope that explains it.
Yeah. OVW had similar stuff like that with like a handful of guys that they would have in the mixture with their, signed people. So I was used to something like that, like your situation, because they don't do that anymore. It seems like that's the difference between like developmental and NXT.
Yeah, it was a different deal. It was how crazy, what a blessing. Is it cool? Yeah, telling someone the other day, and I don't know. It always, no matter what, someone believes it's like this is kind of cool on any aspect. It's like I always like at night, I prayed to be with a certain girl, in high school when that came true, and it was like, wow, this is a cool thing. But I also prayed that I'd get to wrestle for WWF. every night, and lo and behold, the December of 2000 and then April of 2001, I got to have those first two matches with them as WWF. Then they changed it, I believe, April or May of 2001, something like that. And that was crazy. And then all the other ones were WWE and stuff, but that was pretty darn neat. And I think it was cool. Man, I've always wanted that more than almost life itself, and I think that was a problem sometimes because wrestling should be. I think at the end of the day, everybody will find out. The wrestling shouldn't be the top thing in your life. But it could be really close. But wanted it more than anything. But I think there was stuff I developed in and learned, and maybe it was even better in a sense for my life story to maybe travel the road I traveled and get a big taste of it, big bite of it, big knowledge. Really, I think it's what I wanted was the just the knowledge of what's really going on. Pro wrestling's a mystery. That's kind of like it can be like mysterious. Man, are they really like that, or is that golly that that kind of stuff? And I'm still learning about it, but it's neat to really got in with some of the best in the world, had experiences, and know more what this pro wrestling mystery is all about.
Is there any particular moments during your time in FCW that stand out more than others?
Learning to cut a promo for personally me, only learning to cut a promo because it's horrible at promos. Steve Keirn, even in the middle one time we were cutting promos and everybody's watching everybody, and then it's my turn. All this, and I'm doing a crappy one, and he just and I'm trying the best I know how. I just didn't really understand what it was all about, the mystery of it, And he comes up and slaps me in the face, and he goes, hard, and it was like, oh, and he's like, now cut the promo. And I did a little bit better. It wasn't great, but still, it was more fire at least. But then he told me later, he's like, I know I can do that to you because, you're an amateur wrestler from Oklahoma and, it's like a coach. And so I love you. And I was just trying to bring something out of you. And I was like, that's cool. But Dusty Rhodes is a big one that helped in the promos. That stands out. Now, just like even in the early years before that, it's like, golly, but I kept some of these pictures or whatever. And so grateful to have worked with. I worked for Dusty on the Independents before he got re-signed with WWE to help with the developmental. I already knew him, but he really helped me with the promos, and what an honor to be able to work with him on that stuff. And I remember one thing about just little bits I got from the whole deal, but Dusty Rhodes saying, "Hey man, when you tell your name, man, say the whole thing. Say I'm Brandon Groom. That's Brandon Groom. So I'm Dusty Rhodes. Say Brandon Groom. Say I'm Brandon. And so I started doing that. I try to practice that just in real life or anything like that. I remember Bret Hart coming to talk to us and saying, you know what, in pro wrestling, if you're doing something that hurts, you're doing it wrong. And everything hurts in a sense. The stuff is, not fake. There you go. But it's like it shouldn't hurt to where it's going to tear up your body maybe quicker than it has to, or be a joint thing, or give you concussion or whatever.
Yeah.
It's neat things. John Cena got good stuff with him. Got to get in the ring with him. Got to get in the ring with Edge. Got kicked in the nose from Edge, and he's like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." He was coming back from an injury or something, and got in the FCW ring. We were tagging. I was getting on him. Boom, boom. And that's when I learned I didn't know how to do a backdrop right from Oklahoma. It's not go down like this. It's go down to the side so you can throw somebody over your shoulder. That's the professional way to do it. And then that way, if a guy kicks you, he doesn't kick you square in the nose. He kicks you in the chest. But anyway, that kind of stuff. That's why training has been a big thing for me, is learning hey, what's the right way? There's all kinds of flavors in pro wrestling of ice cream. They say it's all ice cream, but you know what? Don't forget an ingredient in the ice cream. Keep everybody safe. There's a right way to do certain bumps and all that kind of stuff. And my wish would be that everybody gets on the same page, so I don't have to worry about getting hurt or whatever in the ring. But anyway.
When FCW, your time in FCW came to an end, was that your choice? Was that they just went into a different direction?
Sadly, it was my choice. that things got so bad in my personal life with the woman I was with. Bless her heart and mind. We were both learning things, but so bad that I even got a gun pulled on me. My car was stolen. There was all kinds of stuff,
That's some
and it wasn't
stuff.
all her fault. It was some stuff, brother. But Dr. Tom Prichard, I remember, pulled me over and he was like, "Hey, let's talk." And we talked about 45 minutes or so. It seemed like, and he was like, "Hey, I was in a real bad place my younger days and wrestling career. And like, there's a woman that was with as a gangster or something like that." Something like that. I might be butchering it, but it was pretty darn close where he kind of in fear for his life. It was kind of a sketchy time, and it was just like sometimes things aren't worth it. That's what he said. But nobody forced me to do anything, but I just
Mhm.
basically, a couple weeks later, or pretty soon, I just told them, I was like, "Hey guys, I love you guys, but I'm heading back to Oklahoma for a month.
Mhm.
I feel like I have to." And so, yeah, my daughter was in Florida, dude. I was in a place where I felt like I had to get back to Oklahoma,
Mhm.
and get some ground again and all that stuff. But anyway, got out of there and then went back to Oklahoma and started Body Progression and the training business and gym and that kind of deal. And for the deal of I'm going to get at this business that I've learned, over time and in Florida before getting involved with FCW, and I'm going to make it where it's so successful that I can go back to Florida,
Mhm.
But then it just turned into a lot of work, but, but a lot of fun and body progression wrestling and different
Mhm.
things. And, now I've got this, I got something that other than if I'd have just been with WWE and lived out the dream I thought I wanted,
Yeah.
which I'm still not saying that couldn't happen, but it's just like then if you get fired, then it's like what are you gonna do? And hope you
Mhm.
can still wrestle. I mean, I hurt now, but if I'd done all those matches on the road every single week, probably
Yeah.
would hurt a lot more. You know?
So
But
how's life been after FCW? You seem like
good.
you're still pretty busy, active.
As far as a wrestler or anything else,
Just busy, like you've stayed busy. Like that time in FCW didn't define who you were. Like you've kept going.
no, man, no. Yeah, no, I don't think. I think we're eternal beings, and anything doesn't define who we are.
Mhm.
We're always going to progress. So FCW was a stepping stone, a building block, a teenage year, a maturing place to keep going. And there's so much more after that. I mean, more matches with WWE, traveling with Manny Fernandez for several years, which is a whole life experience in itself. I'm grateful for it, but a life experience, near death experience sometimes. Been blessed. On the
Working.
road, still able
Mhm.
to run a business, still have a training business, still raise my daughter. My daughter was real important in my life. She's grown now; she's 21 years old. But I was in Florida with her mom, Summer Rain, who used to be a wrestler, and had some good run with WWE herself. Some stuff they wanted to sign her, probably way more than they wanted to sign me. But anyway, I got to just live a pretty good experiential life, if you
Mhm.
will. Good times, definitely some times of learning and tough times. But now, as far as wrestling goes, which is kind of why we're here, it gets better and better. And then there was a time, a rough time in the life of the brideless groom, a couple of years ago, and went through another divorce, and it was like, oh my God, I'm just like, man, I don't know if I can do this anymore. It's my story in now? And it's like, and as far as wrestling, much less life, but
Mhm.
wrestling was like, hey, just maybe, well, you better either quit or you better do it better than you've ever done before.
Mhm.
So now is the time where I feel like progressing in a new way. Um, Really, at the same age that I saw Hulk Hogan at what I saw as his prime when I was watching stuff,
Mhm.
and kind of like, hey, uh, I feel like in a sense I'm doing it better than I ever did it before, and I got a lot of time left. Is what I feel like. So
Absolutely.
this is the prime. This is what's going to define me. The future is going to define Brandon Groom, not
Mhm.
the past. Always will be.
Exactly. Where can people reach out to you at?
Well, I need to constantly working on that, but social media, Instagram, Groom Brandon, Facebook, Brandon Groom. Might be a few old accounts, but mine will either be a current profile picture or a flyer of a show.
Mhm.
Um, and anywhere else? Hmm. I mean, not too hard to find. So yeah, they can reach out. They can reach out.
If you had any advice to give to anybody getting into professional wrestling, what would it be?
You know, another thing, Dr. Tom said, learn to like the taste of shit. But because you're going to eat a lot of it, and
Hmm.
your glory in the ring is a little small part of it, you know.
Hmm.
Anyway, a small part of it. There's a lot of other stuff that goes with it. So, but you know that glory in the ring. I think to find your purpose, know that, and know your purpose, whether you care about this or not. Know it's going to not only affect you and how the fun you think you're going to have, but man, if you can really do this right, I mean, you can really put your all into it, then you're going to affect a lot of other people in a lot of ways you have no idea about. Hulk Hogan and them. I mean, I got to meet him and express somewhat, but you know, a lot of these wrestlers don't know how they've affected my life,
Hmm.
and nobody would. You know, I don't know that internally, so you'd affect a lot of people. And I would say, on top of that, just as important, probably one of the most important, get trained by someone that has some credibility of being there.
Hmm.
I don't know what to call it anymore. National knowledge, people, oh, who's been to WWE? That's not it. Well, who's been the NWA? That kind of Manny Fernandez really put that solid in me, and I saw where okay, it's just like taking the backdrop. You don't take
Hmm.
a backdrop straight down where you can get kicked in the face. You don't throw somebody over your shoulders like that. Like someone showed me. I'm not saying my trainer showed me that. I'm just saying someone in Oklahoma showed me that. That was wrong.
Hmm.
So that's not universal. It's not sustainable. It's not how you do it. It's not what's going to get the crowd the best show. So let's learn the way that we should do it and the safe way to do these things and the right way to do these things, the more realistic and what is real. This is real. And you know, let's do that. So do that. Don't just get trained just because something's right down the block from you. Go get trained by someone that's been there and done some stuff. I would say I'm I've absorbed, not that it was me, but I've been lucky enough to absorb what's at least the basics of,
Hmm.
you know, stuff like that. But you know, man, if he was alive still, if you go to a Harley race, or if you can go to, you know, I hear Moose is in close to my area, or you know, just people that you can tell have got some knowledge other than probably their local community.
Hmm.
That's what I would say is very, very, very important, and way more important than you probably think. Get your foundation right, because that's your concrete. You can build anything on top of your concrete. Build a beautiful house, a mansion. You can paint it whatever colors you want. Do whatever super kicks, flying top rope moves you want. But nobody's going to look at you that really knows what they're doing if you want to go somewhere. If you don't have a foundation, if you can't take your wrist lock right, if you don't look real doing that stuff, and you can't, you know what I'm saying? So
Hmm.
get that right, then you can do whatever else on top of that.
Absolutely.
Hope that makes
Well,
sense.
I just want to say thank you for taking some time out today, talk a little bit about your career. Thank you for what you've done for professional wrestling and what you continue to do, sir. I'm glad we had time to take out and do this interview.
Man, thank you so much, Brian. You're
Thank
awesome,
you.
and I'm sorry I've, you know, been hard to
You're fine.
deal with on schedule wise, and I'm sorry about that. Thank you so much for keep reaching out. I'm really glad I got to do this.
If there's anything I can ever do, please feel free to reach out.
All right, bro. Well, you can do me a favor. Take care, and holler again soon, and always believe.